Lesson 2, Intranet Server and Groupware. Adding a user. IPBRICK is a complete intranet and groupware server, and has the function to make the management of all resources of a network belonging to a specific domain, and provide basic services, such as email, DNS, DHCP, and many other not required for this video. The first part of the class will be initiated by placing IPBRICK as the authentication server for the defined domain. Beginning by clicking IPBRICK I button, then Domain Server, and finally selecting Configure, clicking on Modify, and altering the domain name to the domain of choice. In this case, it should be the domain of the company concerned. Clicking Yes to enable the domain login, clicking on the Modify button, then the OK button, and the changes will take place. Next step is to create some user accounts by accessing IPBRICK I, Users Management, and then the option Users List. To add a user, one should click on the insert link, type the user's full name, type the user's login, and type the user's password. Then, confirming the password by retyping it. One should make sure to use a safe password with upper and lowercase numbers and special characters. Optionally, it is possible to define the user email box storage limit in megabytes, where it says quota. Clicking in the Insert button. The settings are visible on the screen. By clicking on the back link, it is possible to introduce another user. And it is possible to repeat the procedure by clicking again on the Insert link. This time, it will be created a user at the second work area. This option is for more advanced management, and not so important as it is possible to leave it as default. But, in this case, is possible to choose the work area, where it can be introduced, for example, only 10 users, that exchange heavy files, or use email more frequently in work area 1, and 100 more users with less activity, in work area 2. This will guarantee a balanced disk usage, and the stability of the system. As shown, both newly created users are now part of the users list. In a flash-forward sequence, is being created a third user, which is possible to observe. Registering a machine. This is the procedure to register a machine. To do so, one should access the IPBRICK I, Machines Management. This is the area, inside IPBRICK Server, where is possible to create an individual machine. But first is necessary to create a group of machines. This will ensure that every machine that is created will be associated to a group, allowing a better management of the network. Clicking on Machine Groups. Clicking on the Insert link. It's now time to name the machine group, according to administrator needs. The number of machines in this group ranges between 1 and 16, and accordingly, the IP address will range between 224 and 239. Clicking on the Insert button. Now that has been selected the group to which the machine will belong, it will be inserted. One should access Machines Management, and click on the Insert link. This machine will be a workstation. It will be named as PC1. As stated, it is possible to select the previously created group, and assign the machine. Selecting the IP, for example, 225, it will range between 224 and 239 as defined previously. At this step it's necessary to check the MAC address. For this, it should be accessed the Windows command prompt, when working in a Microsoft Windows environment. Accessing the workstation and getting the MAC address. For this, a console is opened, and one should type ipconfig/all. The MAC address is where it says physical address, and is the computer that we are working on. Keep the two windows open, and one should type the MAC address inside IPBRICK I interface. Click on the Insert button. The machine is now part of the group that it has been selected. To check if the machine's IP is attributed automatically by IPBRICK, then it is required to apply configurations. By clicking on Apply Configurations, and in order to register admin actions, is good practice to write some notes about the changes that were made, in the case that one have to reverse them. For instance, something like created machine PC1 and group for nº2 should be enough. IPBRICK will display a message saying that settings were applied successfully, and is necessary to remove the static IP in Windows Network Sharing Center options. This is done so that the system receives automatic definitions from IPBRICK DHCP. For this, one should access by right-clicking in the network symbol at the right corner on taskbar, and open Network and Sharing Center. Clicking on Local Area Connection. Next, on Properties. And then selecting the Internet Protocol TCP, IPv4. Choosing Properties, again. Clicking on Obtain IP address automatically, and clicking OK. Closing all unnecessary windows, and returning to the command prompt console. It should be verified if all settings are correct by typing ipconfig/release, and then by typing ipconfig/renew, and this is the procedure to refresh network settings. It's possible to observe that the IP was assigned automatically. Joining Windows machines to IPBRICK domain. IPBRICK can handle all imaginary scenarios. One of them involves joining Windows machines to the IPBRICK domain. This lesson aims to explain what can be done at the PC machine. First, it is checked if the machine has the IP correctly configured. For this, the console should be accessed and run the ipconfig command. This will open the network adapter configurations. It is possible to see that configurations are set correctly, since we have configured in the previous steps the IP, which is 192.168.225, and also the domain easylinux2.com. In order to add the machine to the desired domain is simple. One just have to access the System Properties window. For this, press the Windows Start button, right-click on My Computer, and then click on Properties. Accessing the link, named Advanced System Settings, at the left of the current window. Click on the Computer Name tab. Beginning by changing the computer on Windows machine name. Clicking on the Change button. Typing the name of the machine, which was registered when the machine was created. In this case it will be PC1. Clicking now on the More button, and at the primary DNS suffix, just write the domain that was configured also in the previous steps. In this case it was easylinux2.com. Clicking on the OK button, and check if all is according to what is desired. This will be the machine's complete name, pc1.easylinux2.com. The next step is to select the option, Member of Domain, and type the domain's name, in this case is easylinux2. By clicking on OK, it will ask the credentials of the administrator responsible for the management of IPBRICK server. For instance, it will be used the same administrator's credentials that have been used to log into IPBRICK interface. And accordingly, login, administrator, and password, 123. Again, clicking on the OK button, in order to confirm changes. After a brief moment, a new window will open, and will alert to the fact that who is administrating is now in the easylinux2 domain. Clicking on OK, the machine will reboot in order to apply settings. If working on Windows 7 or Windows 8 operating system, it is necessary to run a script or reg file, available in the link below the video, or alternately, at IPBRICK website, where is also available at the downloads page. After rebooting, the machine with the new settings already in place. It will log in as John Smith user. The same it was at IPBRICK's web interface, with the appropriate user credentials. Typing them in the login interface. By accessing Windows Explorer, one should go to My Computer, find a network location associated with the letter Z, which is the one which have been configured previously as J Smith user. By clicking on it, and in order to explore its content, it is possible to find that these are all the personal folders which the user J Smith has at his disposal, ranging from contacts, images, documents, videos, and all others. All created users in IPBRICK will have a similar workspace mounted at the Z partition. Furthermore, all applications installed by the administrator user will become available for all IPBRICK users. With this, it is possible to have a workstation ready to deploy. When a new coworker arrives to a company, for example, it is possible to see that Camtasia screen recorder software was already installed in another machine, the administrator's machine. Creating user groups. In this lesson it will be taught how to create user groups inside IPBRICK's server. As mentioned previously, user groups are important to organize workstations inside a company. A good example is to group workstations by department or company division. So, IPBRICK, when installed, already has, by default, two groups of users: the domain administrator users, which have administrative permissions over the domain, and the domain users, which represent all other standard users. Other advantage in creating groups is the fact that one can easily sort and find users that belong to a certain group, and set user permissions in a more effective manner. To create a group access, one should go and select the main option, IPBRICK I, and then user groups. As always, clicking on the insert link to add a new group, assigning the name, computing to the group. Clicking on the insert button, and confirming the insertion by pressing the OK button. On a new page, one will have the opportunity to select from the system users list the users that one should add to the new group. The procedure is always the same, highlighting the desired users by clicking on the desired ones, and transferring them by clicking on the arrow button, pointing in the desired direction. After selecting the users, one should click on the back option to check the newly created group and insert another one. The procedure is repeated by clicking again on the insert option. Naming this group as trainers, as done with the previous addition. Repeating the user's selection procedure. One should highlight the desired users by clicking on them, IPBRICK, and then transferring them to the left side by clicking on the arrow button, pointing at the left direction. With the users added, clicking again on the back option. Both new groups are featured on the list. To edit, one should simply click on its name and repeat the procedures explained. Creating group work areas. These are set as network shares and correspond to physical partitions of Home 1 or Home 2, which can be accessed by all users, or users pertaining to a certain group. As example, a company has 4 heads of department, and they belong to different groups. Although they belong to different groups, they can have a common group work area, only accessible to them. Accessing IPBRICK I, then file server, and then group work areas. IPBRICK has 2 work areas already set by default. Work Area 1, and Work Area 2. For the purpose of modifying work areas, one should go to Work Area 1, and simply click on its name link. As an example, the forms are filled with appropriate information, the name of the shared folder, description, and who is going to manage the shared folder. And other options such as browsable, which means if the folder is visible in the directory folder, or not. the permissions of the administrator, and if the shared folder will store deleted files or not. By enabling the Recycle Bin options, it's possible to finish creating the group work area by clicking Insert button. After it is presented the list of the group work areas. It only shows one. By clicking in the back button, one will create a second shared folder or group work area within the work area 2. Clicking again on the Insert link. The second shared folder is named Lessons. As an example of basic creation, both administrator and description fields will be left empty. This share folder will become hidden by selecting No at Browsable. Also, any permissions to use the Recycle Bin will be blocked. Clicking on Insert to create the network share. As seen, the Lessons share is added to the table. At this step, it's time to configure the access for this same share. After creating a group work area, you have to give permissions to the users in order to have access to the network share. Clicking on Show, and then clicking on User Access. In this step, it will be assigned the individual access permissions. At this time, Sarah Hamilton will have only reader permissions, but John Smith will be able to read and write. And clicking the button, Modify. Repeating the procedure to a previously created Stuff network share, which is located in the work area 1. It's also possible to modify access permissions of a network share by group instead of individual ones. Accessing work area 1 by clicking on the link. Clicking on Group Work Area, Stuff, clicking on Group Access. Doing this will enable one to select which groups will have access to the area, and what kind of permissions they will have. Read-only will be users that have access to share folders and its files. Nevertheless, they are not allowed to change these files. Read and write will be users that have access to share folders and its files and are allowed to change files and save changes. Assigning the computing group as editors. To do this, one should tick the Read and Write box, clicking on Modify, and a new entry will be displayed on the page, stating that the computing group has read and write permissions. As always, at the end of any change to the system, one should perform the Apply Configurations procedure, and write some notes regarding the changes he has made. Integrating and managing Groupware. The final exercise involves dealing with other IPBRICK features. The IPBRICK Groupware server, which includes web applications, such as contacts management, webmail, and calendar. Accessing first, the contacts page, by typing contacts.easylinux2.com. IPBRICK Contacts login page will be displayed. One should log in with the default credentials, which are administrator has the login, and 123 has the password. After a brief moment, it will open the contacts index page. At this step, the objective is to select the users that will also become IPBRICK contact users. Clicking on the Administration tab. The aim is to select all created users and make them available as IPBRICK contacts. This procedure is made also to allow users to log in Contacts application. So, if they are not set as IPBRICK contact users, they will not be able to log in. By selecting the users and clicking in the right arrow, they will move to the right side window. By doing this, will allow users to log in Contacts application and do the research. It is possible to select multiple users by clicking at the same Ctrl+A keyboard buttons, or by using the Shift button and left mouse click. Paying attention to the right side, one should notice that each user has a drop-down list attached. This list enables the administrator to quickly select the permissions profile. By changing John Smith's user permissions from reader to editor, John will be able to edit contacts from the group of contacts. but contacts should be associated with one or more group of contacts, also called entities. As exemplified, a contact can be associated as a partner, but also as a client. One should start by creating entity types. Each entity type will have several entities associated, which are mostly companies. And these entities can also have several contacts. Clicking on the Auxiliary Data tab, choosing the first row, and a New Entity Type option will be visible, and also the New Entity Type button. In the new window, it's written the entity type, for example, clients. Clicking on Save to store the new type, repeating the process. And this one will be named as partners. As you can see, the newly created types are visible and ready to be assigned. Creating an entity. By clicking in the Public Contacts tab, it will show 3 fields. Clicking on the Insert button in the right upper corner, and a new form to fill will appear. In the first field, it is named the entity, Client 1. There are several tabs available to further add info to the entity, but for example purposes, it will be filled only the name. Clicking on the Classification tab, and choosing as a client type. This step is mandatory, because it will be needed when some user is searching for a company. Each tab has a Save button, so it is possible to store the data without the need to access a particular page. Clicking on the Save button at the bottom of the window. This step is repeated for the introduction of a second entity, which, in this case, is a partner, so it will be named as Partner 1. Repeating now the procedure to classify it as a partner type of entity. Saving the entity. On the same row, Public Contacts, add the option Entity Types, such as the ones that have been created, like clients or partners, and also by name, contact, tax number, phone, mobile, and email. IPBRICK Groupware makes available to the users to consult and manage emails, contacts, and share calendars and tasks. All this can be done through the browser, on a secure and fully integrated platform. It can be accessed both inside and outside of the company, and it can be configured to work with any email client application. In order to access all functionalities, by entering the following URL address, groupware.easylinux2.com, it will open the Groupware application. To access the Groupware application, it will be used John Smith's credentials at the login page. It is also possible to choose interface language and interface layout according to the access device. After authentication, it will be demonstrated how to create a new event. By clicking on Calendar and then New Event, a new window is displayed. For example purposes, this event will start at the 24th of June, and it will be named after a popular holiday here in Porto, which is the St. John's Day. By clicking on the Save button, it will add the new event to the calendar. This is possible to do with tasks as well, and they will be shared with other users if needed. There are other collaboration tools at disposal such as Address Book, Tasks, Notes, Bookmarks and File Management. And all is synchronized with IPBRICK Server. This ends the lesson number 2, Intranet Server and Groupware.